just can't stop replaying it. It just runs over and over and over again in your mind. You know you should stop, you want to stop, you know it's not good for you, you've told yourself to stop, but you just can't. And by the way, everyone around you, your sister, your friends, they're ready for you to stop too. And they either say it out loud or think it or create the energy of, you should be over this by now. But you're not over the betrayal. You're just not. And in fact, you're starting to wonder, maybe not just starting to wonder, maybe you've been wondering, is there something wrong with me? Am I crazy? Like, what's going on with me that I can't get over this? Well, let me tell you something that I don't think gets talked about quite enough in this space. And it's the fact that the loop that you're in, this rumination, we call it in therapy world, this loop that you're stuck in is actually your brain doing its job. It's your brain doing what it's supposed to do. It's just gotten off track in a really important way, and that I'll explain. See, our brains are really good at detecting threat, but generally not very good at assessing threat level. So your brain has detected this threat in your environment, and it's something that it did not see coming, right? Your partner, whether it was a romantic betrayal or whether it was a financial kind of betrayal, and there's lots of ways to be betrayed, but somebody you trusted, somebody you put a lot of trust in, betrayed you, and your brain didn't have a place for that, did not see it coming at all. Now your brain's going back through and like replaying everything, like really sort of going back through the play-by-play and the index of like, why did this detection fail? Why didn't I see this coming? My job, I'm the brain, is to protect. Why didn't I see this coming? And there's this sense of, and I've heard people say this in my therapy practice all the time, if I could just understand why, if I could get my head around it, if I could predict it, maybe I could prevent it from ever happening again. And God knows I don't ever want it to happen again because it was awful. See, that's not crazy. That's intelligence trying to protect you, right? That's your onboard systems being on board. That's your systems doing what they're supposed to do. A minute ago I said it's your brain doing what it's supposed to do, but it's gotten off in a way. Here's what and here's the problem with all this. Like, if I can figure it out, if I can understand it, then it won't happen again. That's not completely wrong, but the problem is the loop never closes. The loop just stays open and open and open because the answer that we're looking for, the answer that you're looking for, the answer that your brain is looking for is something that happened in the past, meaning before this current partnership, before this current betrayal, whatever betrayal you're thinking about as I'm talking, the answer is back beyond that. And your brain is not looking back there. Your brain is looking at what in that relationship did I miss? What in that partnership was I not seeing? And so it's looking for an answer, looking over here, and the answer's over there, sort of. So there's this other piece that comes up a lot, and this is sort of tied to the, why is it taking so long? And that's a question I've heard many times in therapy. I've certainly had people come into my therapy office who had a situation where their partner was unfaithful or was hiding money from them or something like that happened, and it happened years before, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years before, and it's like, why? And sometimes it's like, I just want to get over this, and sometimes it's like, I know I need to process this, but why is it taking so long? We can talk about that too, because it's important. And the answer is it takes as long as it takes. And this is tied to the understanding piece, right? And it's part of the same problem. So let me explain it this way. I've had plenty of people come into my therapy office over the years and say, my partner had an affair and I found out about it and it was devastating, and it's almost always devastating. Although I imagine the people for whom it's not devastating don't end up in a therapist office, right? So yeah, and for most people, it's incredibly devastating. It just feels like having the rug pulled out from under you and just the air taken out of your lungs. And I say, well, great. So what? I'm glad you're here. Let's see if I can help. What would you like to see happen? What would be helpful? What would be a really good outcome from our work together? And they say, I just want to understand why. And that's the response very, very often. It's not 100%, but it rounds to it. And so they'll say something like, I just want to understand why he did this or she did this. And I'll say something like, I support you, and I support doing the work that you want to do. And I will meet you where you are and dig as deep and to as far as you want to do. I'm here for you. And I need to say this, pursuing the why he or she did it, pursuing the answer to that question is a snipe hunt. You know what a snipe hunt is? It's a trick they used to pull on people. They take them in the woods and gonna catch a snipe, and it was a trick. There's no snipe. They're just making fun of the person. It's a prank. So the why is a prank. The why is a loss leader. It's not a good use of your time. It's not satisfying, because sometimes the affair happened because the answer is, we were in a hotel on a business trip and we had a couple glasses of wine and we're both lonely and we had sex, and that's it. And that is a very unsatisfying answer. Very unsatisfying. And sometimes that is absolutely the truth. Right, and there's a million different versions of it, and sometimes it's more nefarious and it's longer term, and like all those things. But what I'm saying is that very, very often the answer to the question of why did it happen is not satisfying, because I've had plenty of times where somebody gets that answer. We bring the other person in, or we're doing a couples work, and the person says, "I'm going to tell you exactly why it happened." And sometimes it's about you, and sometimes it's about me, and all those things. And at the end of it, the person who's asking, who suffered the betrayal trauma, now they have the answer. And I can't tell you how many times I've looked at the person and realized I didn't know. And sometimes I've asked, okay, now what? And they say, I don't know. It didn't do for me what I hoped it would do. So why is it taking so long? It's taking so long because we keep asking the why question. We keep ruminating. We keep looping on it. And there's no judgment. Again, that's your brain just trying to keep you safe. And for a lot of people, this situation, whatever betrayal you're thinking of right now, that's the one I'm talking about. This isn't the first time the detection system failed. It's just the most recent. And here's the thing: it didn't fail. There's nothing wrong with you. You didn't fail. I don't even want to use the word fail. It didn't see a threat coming that it had no way it could have seen. And that didn't happen because you're stupid or you're weak or you're lazy or you haven't done the appropriate work or you haven't meditated enough or you haven't read the right books or whatever. None of that. Here's what happens. Somewhere earlier in your life, probably, maybe way earlier, probably just a little bit, maybe way earlier, maybe a little bit earlier, probably way earlier is what I'm trying to say. You were trained to override that detection system. You got messages like, you're too much. Your feelings are too heavy and too many and too much. Listen, no matter what, just keep the peace, right? You've heard that before. Don't rock. Even questions like, are you sure about that? Is that real? Are you exaggerating? Right? You got a lot of messages like that, or maybe it was very overt, maybe it was subtle, right? But we pick up, especially when we're kids, we pick up very subtle cues, right? And our behavior our long-term behavior is impacted by that. And so you took that on and learned, okay, in order to get along in this family, they have to do these things and that things, right? It's like growing up with an alcoholic parent. You get really good at, like, you can hear the parent come home in the evening and hear the way the door shuts and know, it's gonna be a bad night, right? You can almost like feel the energy in the room. And then you go into your adult life and you become hyper vigilant. You can you really find yourself watching people and paying attention to people, right? And you learned in your household that not getting hit or yelled at or whatever was dependent upon your ability to detect what was going on, right? So you learned what it was like to be in that family, or to be safe in that, what was required to be safe in that family. You learned what was required to be safe in that family. So if you get these messages of you're too much, or you're too loud, or your feelings are too extreme, or you're exaggerating, or you're a little bit crazy, or you're making stuff up, you get those messages, you take them in, and you learn, I need to get along in this family. I need to do this and not that. So you got really good at ignoring that system, ignoring that signal. So by the time you ended up in a relationship with this partner, your warning system was already turned all the way down to 0. You turn that dial down from 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, all the way to 0. So they were doing the things, they were saying the things, they were going to places, and you're like, there's a signal coming up that was like, well, that seems odd. You're like, no, it's fine. He's working late again. Oh, no, it's fine. There's this weird charge on the credit card statement. Well, that's odd. No, it's fine, right? You see, the betrayal that that person perpetrated on you did not break your ability to trust you. It revealed something that was damaged long ago. So here's the part where I make people mad, right? Here's the part where my colleagues email me and message me and say pushback, because we make it worse. The helpers make it worse in so many ways. Couples therapy, forgiveness frameworks, stay or go coaching, they all so let me just say this first. I think that so many people in that 90% plus of people in that space have really good intentions, and they probably help a lot of people legitimately. Being cagey about this, they legitimately help a lot of people, but I think they skip over the actual problem. And let me pause here and say like this. Let me just be clear. I know for a fact, from my experience, that there are therapists and coaches out there that make it worse, right? I've had situations where I referred someone that I was doing individual work to a couples therapist that I know, and then I got a release from the client to staff the case with the other therapist. Sometimes their clients want us to do that, and sometimes they don't. We only talk about if we have written permission, and it helps the case and all those things. So, situation where a client said, "Yes, I would like for you to talk to the couples therapist after my partner and I go." Fine, get everything in writing, schedule a call with the couples therapist, and then the couples therapist says, "Oof, yeah, he's a narcissist," or she's dramatic. Instantly, this couples therapist has taken sides, and even if that couples therapist didn't say it in the session, the people felt it. And then, sure enough, the client comes back and goes, "Yeah, I like that therapist. She took my side." Like, oh, that's not how couples therapy works. That's not what it's for, right? And I've had the opposite, where we fired that therapist. She took my partner's side, or he took my partner's side. Oh, that's not how it's supposed to work. And so what's happened is the helping system, we've re-traumatized. We've reiterated and reinforced that your emotions are too much, or you're too much, or are you sure that's going on, or are you making this up? Right? So I know of that happening. I know there's some examples in the coaching world too. So, and I'm certainly not saying I'm perfect. I've certainly made plenty of mistakes, but I think that this is a mistake that I see over and over and over and over and over again. And even those couples therapists who don't take sides, oh, heaven forbid, God, well, that's just, don't. If you're a couples therapist, don't take sides. Even the ones that are competent and lovely and helpful and do almost everything right, I think very often they miss the actual problem. A lot of times the work is about communication and boundary setting and like all those things. I think that's very, very important, very, very important. But there's still this broken decision system, or this broken detection system, right? This broken system of how do I know when something is actually wrong, or why do I think something's wrong? I think things are okay when they're wrong, or why do I have a sense that something is wrong and ignore it? Like, that broken system is the core problem, and that has to get fixed before you learn to set boundaries and all that. So you can still make the decision: should I stay or should I go? And you can like walk through it and make a really smart decision, and really have good support from a really, really good therapist and all those things. I mean, and feel really good about the decision. But it's still not going to be the best possible decision, because the decision system, the detection system isn't fixed. You get that? So, because you can go through a forgiveness framework, right? And there's some really good ones out there, some that I use, some that others I'm aware of. And forgiveness is so important. And you can go through a forgiveness framework and still not trust yourself, right? You can forgive the other person and sort of relieve that tension, but then what do you do going forward? Well, you're probably going to make the same mistake again, because you haven't addressed the broken detection system. So it's the reason people come to me, and you see, you hear it on podcasts, you hear it, whatever in this world. People are stuck for years, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 7 years plus, more years, decades sometimes. And it isn't about the decision. It isn't about the wrong decision. is that they never rebuilt the thing that makes any decision feel solid. They never rebuilt the system that allows them to make a decision and be at peace, like real peace with that decision. You see, self-trust isn't something you recover. It's a mechanism that you rebuild over time. And so, what does that mean? What does it mean to rebuild a mechanism over time? Well, it looks like recognizing that the betrayal or the dis-ease that you feel didn't start with the betrayer. It started way before, way earlier. And it's asking the question, where did I first learn? Where did I first get the message that what I'm feeling is not real or wrong or inaccurate? And really going back and like getting clear on that. And for most people, it's like, oh yeah, it was this conversation I had with my dad when I was 7. Or it was this conversation that I heard my dad, my mother, and my aunt talking about something and when I was 9, and that's when, right? A lot of times people can nail it right away. Not everyone, but it's there. You see, the work is learning to pay attention to the signal and actually hear it. That this charge on the credit card and the explanation that he's giving me don't add up. Or she said she was with her friend, but that doesn't add up for some reason. And then once you hear the signal, telling yourself, all right, I'm not going to dismiss that. I'm going to act on it. I'm going to do something about it before I have time to talk myself out. See, that's not a therapeutic process. Different kind of work entirely, in my opinion. You see, the loop closes when the detection system works again, not when you figure out the past. That's right. The key to closing that loop and to finally stop the key to finally stopping the whole rehash and the rumination, the playing it over and over again, is to work on the detection system and trust that detection system so you can trust yourself. So here's to you doing that work. Here's to you loving yourself and trusting yourself and listening to yourself and knowing that what your instincts are not wrong, and knowing that your emotions are not too much, knowing that you're not too much, you're not broke. You just experienced something that completely threw you off your game because you did not see it coming. And you can learn to have that detection system that allows you to feel safe again and safe enough to let the rumination and the loop stop.